Hey guys, today I wanted to go through how to calculate the mealtime insulin dose for type 1 diabetics. Several steps. The first two that you have to do, though, first you need to determine the carbohydrate to insulin factor, and there's a rule that's called the 500 rule. And basically what this is, this determine carbohydrate insulin factor, this is how many grams of carbohydrate are covered by each unit of rapid-acting insulin that's given. And again, to determine that, use this 500 rule, which basically says if you take 500 and you divide that by their total daily dose of rapid-acting insulin, that will give you this carbohydrate to insulin factor, again, which represents how many grams of carbs are covered by 1 unit of rapid acting insulin. Just as a reminder, you're going to use 450 divided by total daily dose of regular insulin. So the 500 is for rapid acting. The 450 is for regular insulin. Okay? For this example, we'll be using rapid-acting insulin. So, you also need to, the second step is determine the insulin sensitivity factor. And that insulin sensitivity factor basically tells you how many grams or how many milligrams per deciliter of blood glucose, your blood sugar, how much that will decrease with each unit of insulin. Okay, this is also called a correction factor. So for this one, we actually have a 1500 rule. So if you take 1500 and you divide that by their total daily dose of rapid-acting insulin, then that will tell you basically how much insulin or how much their blood sugar will drop with each unit of insulin. Okay. Now keep in mind, since we don't want to drop somebody's blood glucose down to 0 because that would kill them, we need to know their target blood glucose, and there's a formula that you're going to use after you determine this insulin sensitivity factor to determine your how much insulin you're going to need to give them for their correction factor. So that's basically you're going to take their current blood glucose, so their current blood glucose, and from that you're going to subtract their target blood glucose, and you're going to take that divided by your calculated from the 1500 rule insulin sensitivity factor. Okay, so let's look at an example doing this. We've got somebody whose total daily dose of insulin is 50 units. They're about to eat a meal that has 60 grams of carbohydrate in it. They take their blood sugar before this meal and they find out that their blood sugar is running high. It's 210. Their target's 120. So how much insulin do they need to take before they take this meal? All right, so the first thing we have to do is our carbohydrate to insulin ratio. And again, that's your 500 rule. So if we take 500, we're going to divide it by their total daily dose, which is 50. And we run the math here, guess what? We get 10 units, or I'm sorry, that's a 10 to 1. Saying that basically for each unit of insulin, you're going to cover 10 grams of carbohydrate. Okay? So now we have to calculate, I'm gonna highlight that real quick. We've got 10 grams. Now, actually, we have 60 grams of carbohydrate in the meal. So if we've got 60 grams of carbohydrate in the meal, if we divide that by 10, then we're going to end up needing 6 units of insulin to cover this meal. So I'm going to note that real quick. Right there, 6 units is what we're going to need. Okay, so that's from the carbohydrate to insulin ratio to cover the carbohydrate that they're about to take in. Well, we also have to cover this overage that they have because, again, their blood sugar is high right now compared to what their target is. So we've got to provide insulin to cover that overage. So we are going to look at our insulin sensitivity factor. I'm going to come to a new page. And again, the insulin sensitivity factor is 1500. It's 1500 divided by 50, which is going to give us an insulin sensitivity factor of 30. And again, basically what that number means is every unit of insulin is going to drop their blood sugar, their blood glucose level, by about 10 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? Well, if we know that their pre-meal blood glucose is 210, and again, their target blood glucose is 120. We run that through the formula that I showed you earlier. We're going to get 210 minus 120. Take all that divided by our insulin sensitivity factor, which is 30. And when we do the math here, we're going to end up with 3 units of insulin. 3 units of insulin is what's going to bring their blood sugar back down to the target range. So our total insulin dose is going to be our, get the right tool up here, it's going to be our carbohydrate to insulin calculation for covering the carbs in the meal, plus our correction factor to get their blood sugar down to where it's supposed to be. Okay, well, our correction factor is right here. It's this 3 units. And what we calculated from our carbohydrate to insulin ratio on the previous page was 6 units. So our total insulin dose is 9 units for this meal. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening.